Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Al-Quran wa Durra the Jews, the Quran is spares. We are still reading from Surah Al-Ahqaf, and in this session we'll begin with verse 13, and soon inshallah we'll get to the verses that speak about being good to one's parents, a very important theme and very important part of Islamic belief and ethics. Start reading inshallah and translate and comment بإذن الله عز وجل. سبحانك. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Surely those who say our Lord is Allah and then remain steadfast, there will be no fear for them nor will they grieve. أولئك أصحاب الجنة خالدين فيها جزاء بما كانوا يعملون. It is they who will be the residents of paradise, staying there forever as a reward for what they used to do. The no fear is about what they are going to see, what is coming. The no fear, they are not going to be to hellfire. And the no sadness, it's about what they have left behind. They are the people of paradise, they are the residents of paradise because of all the good deeds that they have done in order to deserve بإذن الله عز وجل the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه إحسانا. It's one long verse, but وصينا الإنسان بوالديه إحسانا. We have commanded people to honor their parents. حملته أمه كرها ووضعته كرها. Their mothers bore them in hardship and delivered them in hardship. وحمله فصاله 30 شهرا. Their period of bearing and weaning is 30 months. حتى إذا بلغ أشده وبلغ 40 سنة قال رب أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه. When the child reaches their prime at the age of 40, they pray, "O my Lord, inspire me to always be thankful for your favors, which you bless me and my parents with, and to do good deeds that please you, and instill righteousness in my offspring. وأصلح لي في ذريتي. I truly repent to you. إني تبت إليك. وإني من المسلمين. And I truly submit to your will." That's the meaning of Muslim. I am amongst one of the Muslims. Being good to parents. Many verses in the Qur'an mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and immediately the verse mentions the parents. For example, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ بِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed that you will worship none but Him, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, بِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, being good to parents. And another verse, أَنُشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ إِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ. Be thankful to me and to your parents. To me, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the return. So this verse, وصينا الإنسان بوالديه إحسانا. Ihsan, the root is حاسين نون حسن. It's about beauty. It's about beauty. You have Jamal and you have Husn. And in the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam, one of the things that he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked about, this is when he showed up as an anthropomorphic form, as a man, spotless clothing, and the narrator, Sayyid Umar al-Khattab, said that they did not know him, so he's not one of the people of Medina, and it doesn't show that he was traveling. If you travel, if you are not from Medina, you are going to come from the desert. It's going to be hot. It's going to be dusty. You are going to sweat. Your clothing will be, messed up. He was spotless. So he came, the Sayyid Jibreel salam, all the way to the Prophet sallam, and he leaned his knees against his knees and he put his hands on his thighs. On his thighs, it could be his own, Jibreel salam, in that anthropomorphic form, or on the thighs of the Prophet sallam. And that's pretty close. That's very close. Usually people who are strangers do not do this. And he asked the Prophet sallam, he asked about Islam, he asked about Iman, and then he asked about. In that hadith, it's the Prophet ﷺ answered by saying, أَن تَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ كَأَنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. So your worship reaches that degree of excellence, reaching with your worship a degree of beauty. So it's not that you simply you are mechanical about what you are doing, for example, prayer. But we take in abstract form the notion of ihsan, husn, doing things to a degree of excellence, to a degree where it becomes beautiful. And here it says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees to the human being to be not only good to her parents, but to reach with that treatment, with that relationship, a degree of excellence, a degree of beauty, being kind to them, being merciful to them, not raising his voice, not raising her voice, serving them, literally, just doing things that would please them, anything that would make them happy. When they get old, they become sensitive. They start checking whether the kids, they are not kids anymore, of course. If the parents are in their 80s, their kids could be in their 40s, in their 50s, maybe even older than that. So they start checking whether their children are treating them as a burden. Do they celebrate their parents' presence? Do they get together quite often, maybe even daily? And that's not too much. If you are, I love basically Muslims and non-Muslims. I've just read a couple of days ago about a woman who just moved to be close. She appears Christian. I mean, judging from a distance, but doesn't make much difference really. People are good to their parents, and this is an area where religions have this as a commonality, being good to parents. Here it says ihsana, that beautiful relationship with the parents. There are prophetic traditions, ample prophetic traditions about the rights of parents. You should not abuse this hadith. For example, أنت ومالك لأبيك. You and your money and your property belong to your father. In the sense of you just don't leave your father subsisting, hardly subsisting on minimum, and you are a millionaire. But if you are pretty close to each other in terms of income, the father should not abuse this thing, should not even bring up the issue. There's the hadith of that really celebrates motherhood. A companion asked the Prophet ﷺ, who's entitled to my best companionship. The Prophet ﷺ told him, your mother. He said, then whom? He said, your mother. He said, then whom? He said, your mother. The fourth time, the Prophet ﷺ answered, it's your father. And the scholars understood this as the priority. The priority is taking care of the mother first. 3 times, some scholars literally said, even in things that are quantifiable. So if you gift your parents, your mother gets 3 folds. And the reason for this is that they believe that this hadith, which is narrated by the both Bukhari and Muslim, so its authenticity, its chain narrator is impeccable. The reason for this, the scholar said that the first one, Ummuk, the first one, your mother, is in exchange for pregnancy. Second one is in exchange for the delivery, and the third one is for breastfeeding and nurturing, raising the child. 3 things that fathers do not do. They have an important role, but this is all about the mother. And this is why here, immediately after that, what does it say? It does mention that their mothers bore them in hardship and delivered them in hardship. And not only they love the fact that they became pregnant, they love the fact that they're going to become mothers. There's nothing like motherhood. There's nothing like motherhood. And I'm sorry about this trap of of feminism. Yes, there are women who have been mistreated, but ultimately it became too much, whereby extremist feminists started considering all men as enemies and using a language literally as militant, the camp of the enemy. Of course, this is too much. They trapped women that they could to imitate men, to walk like men, to talk like men, to dress like men, to compete with men as if this is really their role in life. They did not want to be, you study, you finish your BA when you are 22 approximately, and another 2 years for the master's degree, and then you become professional, and then you become a lawyer, and then I'm talking about a certain sequence, and out of a sudden she finds herself in her 30s and her biological clock is ticking. She knows it. Some of them, they decide they don't want marriage, they don't want kids, they don't want. And ultimately, they just literally yesterday, I received an email. A friend who is really also a student in a sense, the first gynecologist to establish a field of a sub specialty in gynecology for girls, a Swiss, really, a prominent physician and professor of medicine, and she lectured around the world and helped thousands of women to deliver as part of her career. After she graduated, she wrote a doctoral dissertation comparing Judaism, Christianity, and Islam about birth and death, the ethics. And this is where I came into the picture. In fact, I attended her doctoral dissertation defense in Freiburg in Switzerland in 2004. She told me that how her husband convinced her not to have children because all those children are her children. That's not true. She discovered that the hard way. They're not her children. Thousands of children that she helped, this is the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That all these children will come to life, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enabled her to play that role, but they are not her children. It's beautiful, it's lovely, it's rewarding, such a joy. If you don't enjoy the presence of kids around you, and there's something wrong with you. But her husband, who's also a physician, convinced her not to have children because all these children are her children. She told me literally. Uh, so I said yesterday I received the news that she passed away. She said that she would put her head on the pillow and cry later on in her life. She retired, no kids, no family, no extended family, no siblings, no. This is really the plight of many people, but this is pretty common now in many Western countries. They don't reproduce, they don't have the 2.1 minimum pregnancies as statistics to maintain the demographics. She would put her head on the pillow and she would cry, she would weep because she doesn't have children. There was only one woman whom I met in her, a relative, a very distant relative. That's the only one. Another woman, very distant, and that's very sad. She was deprived. And the another part of the story, later on in her life, when she got old, her husband left her to greener pastures to be with another woman, a younger one. So there's something that does not, in translation, will be lost in hardship, but the etymology of the word kurhan, it is something that the difficulties that she goes through, the hardships that she in fact doesn't like, but it's a necessary thing. And the moment they give birth, just a little bit later on, they choose to become بإذن الله عز to become pregnant again. But there is the hormonal changes, the weight, the difficulty walking, getting up, they become heavy, all of this. So this way we understand your mother, your mother, your mother. I have, how in Freud's psychoanalytical approach, if you say, I'm going to reward my mother, I'm going to be good to my mother, quantifiably 3 times my mother, my mother, my mother, and then the 4th time my father. Freud will say, you have a problem with your father. You see how the shortcomings, they don't understand. There's nothing that could celebrate motherhood like this particular hadith. And had this been, why these feminists do not mention this hadith? Had this been the opposite, your father, then your father, then your father, and then your mother the 4th time, only once the mother, then all the feminists would have said, oh, Islam is against mothers. And I don't know of any Muslim man, especially the scholars, who basically, of course, they would not oppose, or they have no. I celebrate this hadith. I don't know anyone throughout Islamic history who basically critiqued or criticized or objected or in any way. Subhanallah. And there are authentic also traditions. A companion came to the Prophet ﷺ and he wanted to join the Muslim struggle against the idolaters. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him, so he wanted to join the Muslim army. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him, more than one version, do you have a mother? He said, yes. He said, stick to her feet, to her leg, to her feet. And some scholars said this is why they accept the notion of kissing the feet of parents. Just go and be good to your mother, even if your mother is a non-Muslim. Like in Hadith Asma, radiallahu anha, her mother came to visit her, and she was still an idolater. I should not become a Muslim. When she visited her, she came to ask the Prophet ﷺ whether this is okay. And the Prophet ﷺ said, yes. The only thing is if you be good to your parents as if they are Muslim in terms of obeying them, except for one thing. If they ask you to leave Islam, to not to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Other than this, subhanallah. And in general, you might find a mother who might do that, and we have historical example. But subhanallah, subhanallah, this is the heart of the mother. I met a young Italian, very young Italian man who became Muslim, and he's like in a remote area in Italy. And his mother started traveling to another town to bring him halal meat. She is not a Muslim. Subhanallah. Another man whom I met in South Africa after I believe, if I remember well, after the Friday prayer at the time, and he came to me and he told me that he's an Afrikaner, a white, like a European descent. By that time, the apartheid regime in South Africa collapsed and things have changed. On the reality on the ground, of course, it doesn't change overnight. Poverty, violence, crime. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide South Africa and the colonizers just to leave Africa alone. And inshallah there'll be peace around the world, but we need these countries to have their own opportunity without the burden of the past and the international debt that they have been tricked to have at any rate. So he told me that he became Muslim. Lovely. I mean, this is something that is beautiful. Then he told me that he divorced his wife, and he told me that he was unkind to his parents. And it shocked me. Who told you that if you become Muslim, you divorce your wife and you become unkind to your parents? He was like in his 30s, maybe. And I told him, "Did you love your wife before you became Muslim?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Just go back and reconcile with her." That's something. Nobody said that you divorce your wife. And I told him how to go back and also have to reconcile with his parents. Of course, it entails apology, fixing things. And we understand from the 30 months, the period of bearing and weaning is 30 months. The minimum, because from another verse of Fisalu Fi'amain from Surah Luqman, that it takes 2 years for the child to be nourished and to be on his own, in a sense, on his own, like to be able to eat without breastfeeding. Muslim scholars understood that the minimum pregnancy is 6 months. Then we talk about maturity. You have puberty, that's one concept, that's physical, and that's relative. In certain countries, cold countries, might, I have no statistics, but from memory, people might reach puberty a little bit later compared to people who live in hot areas. It could be something that they have systematically eaten, like in the United States, the phenomenon that eating cheap hamburgers, beef with lots of growth hormone that caused very early puberty. This is why we talk about being mature, in a sense. In Arabic, it's more accurate. Not reaching puberty. In Arabic, it's bulugh. It could be understood in terms of It is reaching a certain age, and some scholars understood this not only in the puberty. Some people will not reach puberty in the sense of some women, for example, will not have menstruation. That's part of a medical fact. At any rate, here it mentions the age of 40, an age of wisdom in a sense, and as part of this, the 40 years, it's an age when you become thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should be wise. You should not change. Okay. You should watch basically. You are not an adolescent. You're not a teenager. You cannot really, you should not be subjected to, it's not like having teen pressure. Not anymore. Not anymore. So you be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings that He blessed you with, and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the things, not only for you, your parents, and to do good. And you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect your offspring, to guide your offspring. You would like them to be with you in paradise, inshallah. You would like to be with them in paradise. So it's basically a family and not an individual thing. It is really I have had problems with Descartes' cogito, not because of doubt. It's Descartes basically. Maybe I should shed more light on this, on Descartes' cogito. But inshallah, at the beginning of the next session, I might say something about this. Until then, subhanakallah wa hamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.